All right, folks, welcome on back here for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk workshop here this Tuesday, September 12th, shortly after 11 a.m. Eastern Time. As such, each and every Tuesday morning, we conduct these workshops. Great to have all of our students and members alike inside our live trading room. Got the big old headset on today. Great to see Roger, Larry, got Grant, Andrea, Buongiorno, got Kathleen, Michael, Phil, Brad, Ray, Sam, Roger, and all of our new members joining us perhaps on top. Welcome aboard to all of our members there. Now, if you're joining us back on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, X, etc., whatever you call it nowadays, hey, welcome on aboard as well. Just really quick, going to pop the QR code up right now. If you wanted to join us, get the full rendition of this workshop alongside everything that we conduct inside our live trading room, just scan that QR code on the top left of your screen. I just got stopped out on a trade here. It was like a dinky small trade, actually. I just came off a coaching call with one of our students, and right now, Yehuda, and just got stopped out, break even on this IONQ. Looks like the markets are really starting to sink right now. Let's take a look. Is it IONQ only or just the market as a whole? Looks like the market's peeled back the last few bars, but not nearly as big of a drop as what we just had here on IONQ. So how about this? Let's start off on IONQ. Great to have all of our members here joining us just collectively. So we're actually going to talk a lot about this morning as a whole, and even Tesla from yesterday. Tesla, big pop coming off that Morgan Stanley, upgrade, ended up outperforming whatever they labeled them as. With IONQ, really quick learning lesson here. Just like we always say inside these workshops and our main curriculum on top, when a stock breaks through a big level, what are we expecting shortly after? My classic catchphrase for Larry and John and Wayne and Grant and Barbara and Kathleen and all of our students here. What are we expecting shortly after a stock breaks through a big level and we jump in? Now, I hope for the move to be up. That's what I hope for. What I'm expecting, regardless of what I hope for, is a big move. A big move. So we're going to talk about a couple of different trades, but just before on a one-on-one coaching call with one of our students, well, it was actually pretty interesting because we were watching IONQ drop and drop. It was at 20 at the time, and my student Yehuda and I, and we were looking at this, and I said, all right, maybe it could bounce from 20. There was an iceberg there earlier as resistance. Let me ask all of our students here once more, when a stock breaks above resistance and it runs off of it, we would like to think that initially for resistance to become what? Support. All right, so I thought for as much as IONQ dropped off from the highs here, like, all right, maybe 20 could be support. I didn't enter, though, at 20. We were just kind of looking at it. Maybe we're going to. We were just kind of shopping around. I think at the time we jumped back, Yehuda, to CGC, which I'll go into next. Well, I turned my head for a little while, and this obviously continues to drop off a bit. And at the time that I turned back to it, right away, this was at my next level. And it was right at this green line I plotted. I took the time to plot this actually last night. I normally am not as much of a night hawk the day before. So, I knew I was going to be busy this morning and pre-market myself. I said, all right, let me get a couple stocks out the way. I plotted for IONQ, then I plotted for Tesla. So, we'll go into those in a moment. But IONQ, well, hey, it was already at my next big level. It actually nipped under and over it right at the time I turned to it. So let me ask us really quick. What do we nickname green as for Margaret, Larry, Brad, Ryan, and Sam inside our trading room? We go through the motions every week here in Traders Talk. What do we nickname green as? Buying. So not only was this a big level to me because I took the time to plot it, like any level I plot to me is a big level. Well, that's a big buying level, right? So right away, I'm not normally this impulsive to just jump into a trade, but it ended up leading to a pretty strong under and over, and I just jumped right in. It was on a smaller size. So this was a quarter size position. It was 250 shares. I'm looking for a nice rebound, though. I'm looking for a big move shortly after. So did I get greedy by looking for more than 30, 40 cents? Not necessarily. IONQ has been such a big mover as a whole of late, like the last month and a half. So why not? Why not to see the stock, try and rebound and hold a higher low from 20, move back up a bit more? Why not? It definitely has the power to do that. But and I did this right before Traders Talk started live. I showed us inside our live trading room. I did this live before I pressed record. Wayne, John, Brad, Kathleen, you saw me do it. I moved my stop up on this trade. So I initially had my stop set. What was it? You hit at like 59. I had it set at 1959 here. So as it bounced and moved up here, I said, okay, well, you know what? We're beginning traders talk. Not only that, but I was up a little bit at the time. Well, it's either going to continue or it's not going to continue. And we're going to get this as the end result over time. So I moved my stop up to basically break even. I think even like a penny or two, like at my level or under. And right as we started here, splat, big drop. I am very happy with the end result on this trade. It's small size. So even if I did get out at 20 bucks, it's not as juicy of a profit as I would have made if this was during better trading time from 9:35 to 10:30 Eastern. I'm trading normal size then. At 10:30, I still could be trading normal size or whatnot, but on this trade, it was dropping fast. I said, all right, let me jump in, but I'm not going full size. It was quarter. So I wanted a little bit more. I didn't get what I wanted. End of the day, I'm not going to take a nick on this trade. I'm not going to take a loss, any sort of scratch, any of that. I'm out break even, and I'm extremely happy that I got out there. Now, is it possible it could bounce from the next set of support lines? These two right here together, past monthly close level at 1925. I think that was back from the end of July, if I'm not mistaken, right there. Bing, right there, end of July 1925 close. And then also another big buying level, so to say, green, right? That was at 1934. Move my line. It's possible this could be the next support level, right? Under and over, it's holding it here, but I'm not going to be so jumpy to take a trade at this very point. We got traders talk right now, so I tried before, didn't get what I wanted. If the markets somehow bounce up coming up here, then IO and Q, I'm sure will go with it. I think there's a lot of chances to look for a move on that stock alongside a bunch of other trades now at this point. So, with the CPI report out tomorrow, with the PPI report out on Thursday, overall, there's no great need to be aggressive and very trigger happy to do this, do that, do this, do that. Um, Normally we tend to see hesitation before these reports come out, but otherwise, let's say for a stock like CGC, well, hey, same deal, right? And I said this before to my student Yehuda on our call. If this isn't making the big move here off the big level that we plotted, 151, this one I wrote in the chat board. I said Yehuda and I are looking for a move off this 151. It was right here at this time. Well, if it's not going to make that big move like we're looking for, you don't want to hope, because where the markets are already likely to be flat to begin with, then, for something like CGC, let alone that popped up from last week at 50 cents, it already hit 195 today. How much more could it keep going? So you want to trust your levels. Don't get me wrong. You want to play to the levels that you took the time to plot and the levels that you know are damn strong, but not more than that. Not any more than that, right? Clearly, it goes to show on my IO and Q trade here, and then probably on a litany of other stocks, right? So, a couple questions early coming in on the chat board right now inside our live trading room. Again, for all of us on social media right now joining us, just scan that QR code on the top left, get you access to our main chat board. All of our students like Brad, Grant, John, Ryan chatting right now, asking questions. So, Ryan's saying, "Hey, Josh, was that green line a CVP of support?" Closing print from the previous day. Now, Ryan, are you referring to the price 1968 here? 1968, this? I'm going to say that was yesterday's closing print. Yeah, that was yesterday's closing bell print, 1968. It was green on the tape, so I guess I labeled it green there with that in mind. So technically, it was yesterday's closing print. It was filled on the ask. So this could have been the moment for this to be support. But if we're not getting that run up, then over time, not to say it's just going to break under it, but hey, when a stock breaks under support and drops off from it, support should then become resistance. So even in the event where this begins to pop back up a small bit, I wouldn't be as bullish right out the gate. If you jump in from this next set of support lines right now and it starts to go, easy to say that you might be in a good position by the time it hits 1968. But given how well that was actually holding a support a bit there on the first move back up to 1968, I would initially expect for that to be resistance. All right, so there's a lot that I want to talk about here. This is just what we kind of started off with the way it dropped, right? So Let's go to CGC. I want to go to CGC. Obviously, it's dropping off now, so it's not a great trade here at this point. It was a great trade from this morning. It was a great trade from yesterday. It was a great trade from last week, and so on and so forth. Now, we've been aware of this for a little while. The pot stocks that we've been calling out from the beginning of August as a potential short squeeze. And for the majority, we've been really head on with that. The only thing is that Tilray, TLRY, is like an absolute slug. This thing has been so slow compared to all the others out there. ACB, SNDL over time, VFF from yesterday that was on our watch list. So, the main horse, though, in the race has been CGC, and we've been calling this one out too. There's a lot to digest on this trade because, of course, it ran up once again today, and we'll talk about that right now. But here is something that threw me for a loop. This threw me for a huge loop early this morning. And when I say that, I don't want to confuse students and I don't want to discourage new students in the sense that it's hard to try and anticipate or, identify and, things move quick. No. But, at least for what we can see, well, if there's something that normally doesn't show, it leads you to ask why, right? So I want to get this actually here if I can. Trying to get the timestamp that I chatted Rich, my colleague here in the chat board early this morning. So, Rich, what was this early in the morning, man? We had so much chat going on between you and I in private here, and talking all about football too. My Giants, Fausto's Jets. All right, so early this morning, we ended up seeing some big prints getting filled on time and sales here on CGC. But it was at a really odd price, and it was at the price $1.95. $1.95. Like, why? I mean, yesterday's high was only 179, and then in the after hours yesterday, it only moved up to a high of I think exactly that, 179, 180ish, if I'm not mistaken, right? Got close, then it dropped off, right? So this never hit 195, 194. Where I'm getting to is, and I'll show you this on the tape, this morning, it had to have been at 8:15, 8:20 in the morning. I'll go back on time and sales right now. I saw a bunch of different prints come in on the tape way at a price. So it led me to think, it led me to ask, why? And, hey, we got to turn ourselves into a 5-year-old at times and ask, why? Why do we see all of a sudden, there we go, thankfully, didn't need to waste much time here, thank God. There we go, 192, 192, 198, this is. Why? Clearly, there is zero, Z-E-R-O, charting. Trust me, when I look in the chat board, I see a lot of trades get posted, and I go back myself and say, all right, why did this trader get in here or there? I look at all the charting, I see this all. So the only way for me to say that this is legitimate is if these are dark pool transactions that are off exchange, basically in-house from client to client within the same institution. Now, this all came in basically at the same time. 192, 192, 198, 195, and so forth. So I wrote that to Rich earlier in the chat board, between ourselves, because it's not a guarantee of anything, really, until we see the stock make a very convincing move upward. I'm not going to really think much of that. And we see this crap all the time in pre-market, at least at 8 o'clock. See these big spikes at 8 o'clock. Unless if there is big volume filled at these prices, I'm not going to think much of it. But this was really far away from where CGC was trading in pre-market, let alone where it was trading at all yesterday. At all. It didn't even sniff the 190s, right? So, hey, this morning, what happens if, after the market opens up, preferably after the first 5 minutes, what happens if CGC begins to break out, begins to punch above big resistance? So, hey, it's easy to say it ended up actually holding under and over from 140. Big buying level there, I labeled. But this morning, by the time the market opened up, on the CGC trade, opening bell print right here, it was about 1.4 million shares. That's pretty big to me at 151. All right, well, hey, what happens, if anything, if this breaks over this big level? We should be expecting what after, folks? A big move shortly after. Now, what time did this break over this level? 9:38. Okay, so absolute prime time trading, like flawless 10 out of 10 prime time trading. This is breaking through this big opening bell print level. I can honestly label it green since it was green on the tape. So why not expect for this to go? But not just that. Well, since it's breaking over this big level and we know reversal time to be around 10:15 to 10:30 Eastern time, why not try and look for a move close to 194, 192, 198 maybe, or whatever it is there, right? So when I'm in at 151 and this thing is freaking flying, I'm confident to see this try and get closer towards there. If this can break above 169, I was saying that this was the next major level I had plotted. So, I was saying in the chat board here, we might have a little turbulence at 169. Don't be surprised. But if this breaks above this level rather fast, then things are looking phenomenal for this to try and get closer. So easy to say that's what happened. If this was shaking around 169, even the slightest here, I would have gotten out on most of my trade at this point. Because what's wrong with about 17, 18 cents for a $1.50 stock? That's a pretty solid profit to me. Even if it goes higher, that's not a small move in relation. You always hear me say, you look for a big move shortly after, big move. I don't have a number, I don't have a percentage to give. It's very, shoot from the hip. The more that you're with us inside our trading room, you do have expectations. Simply put, for a $1.50 stock, hell, if I can get 40 cents on this like it made, that's the home run. That's the ultimate like pipe dream to, try and jump in and out on. But heck, if I can get 17, 18 cents here, I think that's justified with the entry, and I'd be very happy if I got out there. Well, it broke right over this level without any fight. Are you kidding me? So of course I'm going to hang on to this trade. Of course I'm going to stay in this trade then. So at that point, the more it pushed up, the more I thought, all right, we're going to get close to this. We're going to get pretty good towards 192, 198, whatever. And at that point, I ended up getting out on my position. It was like pretty much right there at 192, 191 or so. It was actually on options trades as well with CGC. So on the stock, I did get in at 151, but on the option, I timed the entry very similar with the stock trade. I jumped in on 150 calls here, right once it broke over 151, and I got out on the calls once it was right around this 190-ish area, because obviously it can keep going up a bit more, the premium price that is. But when you already have the majority of the meat taken off the bone, you don't want to get greedy. You really don't want to get greedy. I mean, not only that, but yesterday I personally missed out on CGC and the run that it made. I was more infatuated with my Tilray. So with how much it pumped yesterday, with how much it pumped last week, and then this morning on top, you really don't want to get greedy, right? You can't, because it's easy to say, but it's easy to say, but this dropped off not only right from that price, but if you're counting on that reversal time to be 10:15, 10:30, I would expect for it to be around that time. But the more and more and more a stock is pumping up, big trees fall hard, right? And we've seen that in the past. I mean, hey, look what happened to Carvana back earlier this year, not even like of late, but like earlier, or I guess it was even last year at this point. But I guess you could also go back into July time now at this stage. But for as much as it pumped up, well, eventually it comes back down, right? So if you're in as a day trade, then you want to make sure that you're out before the top of the roller coaster is hit, especially before the roller coaster is coming back on the way back down, right? So, ultimately there, it's just better to take the money and run. Wayne says in our chat board, pigs get fed, hawks get slaughtered. I like that. Yeah, Wayne, you had a good morning this morning. And I just say that because he was very active in chat, and I was seeing it very, just evidently. Had a nice bunch of trades out there on CGC, I thought it was. And Wayne, what was the other one you got? You had a nice one early. Was it the COSM, COSM in pre-market? That's also one that we'll talk about. Lira and COSM. He says, yeah, let's go to COSM next, because I'll tell you, this was a good morning. I expected the markets to be very flat and shaky and hesitant with the CPI report out tomorrow. And because of that, yes, I'm not going to be as trigger happy to take certain trades on name brand companies, especially when the markets are dropping. That IONQ trade was a bit of an exception based on the level I had. But outside of that, that doesn't mean that we can't find like the cheap runners, the inexpensive stocks that are popping big. Just earlier today, once again, WeWorks, another big squeeze up on this trade. So, from yesterday's call out that we had, once again, this flew. Well, eventually it's going to pull back pretty hard, right? Well, earlier this morning, we had a similar move, COSM, and this was a big pop earlier, or like right out the gate at 825. And thankfully, I was, logging into the chat room and I was setting up myself, and I saw this. I think Rich chatted it to me actually at first. Give him the shout there. Well, when I see something this big of a pop, right away, it gets me going. I start saying, all right, well, where are my levels? Where are my levels? Okay, well, obviously, you look up Bookmap, but this is a pretty big pop. So right away, I was just kind of looking at the daily chart here. I normally don't have these circles showing here actually at the time to represent it, but the white candlesticks here you could even see. Pretty odd. I mean, the stock trades like crap volume every day, so I don't want to really think too much of it, but 3 days in a row, you had a doji at the same exact price, 121. What's that all about? The open and the close were the same exact price at 121 those days. And then even this one after 120. So I'd say 121, 120 seems to be a bit of a historical level. So as soon as this stock popped and we first made the call out on the pop, my next call out right away. It was at 8:35 in the morning. You could scroll up in the chat board, folks. It's there. Too lazy to timestamp. I said at 8:35, COSM has a big daily chart level 121. Well, right at 8:35, it failed to break any higher, came right back down. Normally, I move away from stocks like this because we see all these pump and dump trades all the time. This could easily come back down and just sink lower. Actually, at times we've seen them make the percent losers list over time from there. Well, what I'd called out afterwards, or what I saw afterwards, is what led me to become interested in the trade again. I ended up seeing later on it broke down a lot, but off of 110, there was about a 26,000 share iceberg that popped up on the buy side, on the bid side there, right? All right, well, what time is it? 8:40 in the morning, 8:42 in the morning, just about roughly. So we still have time to see this try and materialize. Now, it needs to at least hold above that price. So, for myself, I ended up waiting for this to go under it. And by the time it started to chip back above it, it was just on the sequence here. I ended up jumping in. The price was at 111. Easy to say afterwards because it ran up, but folks, I shoot straight. I just mentioned how I missed out on CGC yesterday because I was too infatuated with Tilray. So, with this, just easy for me to tell you. But by the time this broke back over 110, I jumped in rather quick because it had a tough time really with it at first. But you know what? If it's not going to hold under it and tank more, and if it gives us another shot of it breaking over that price again, 111, or was it 110? It was 110. My entry is at 111, right? So with this, it ended up getting back over that 110 price. And then from there, hey, it's a big level. Looking at the order book, we don't have too much volume out there even before that iceberg showed up. Our biggest one was at 125 for about 17,000. All right, well, that's a big level. We'll have to respect this as a big level here at 125. All right, well, what's bigger? 17,000 roughly, 15, 16,000 there, or 26,000. So when I saw this pop up, I definitely said I'm like, all right, well, let's see what could happen here over time. But once it rebroke back over this level, we say, all right, well, it gives us the chance to try and jump in. But obviously, it not just has to hold above it here now, but it has to make a big move shortly after. So with that, it ended up moving up towards 121. I took half my trade out, or 3/4 of my trade out here, I think right at 121. Then the remaining part, I think it was right at 132 or something like just later on. Right around here, I think at this time I got out on the last quarter. Money's money, right? So if we make 2 cents on the trade, then it runs up 35 cents without us. Obviously, that's very disappointing. And the more we do of that, it could be discouraging down the line. Obviously, us here at Cyber Trading University, we look to try and help you understand what we're doing, not just wrong, but what we could be doing more so in the right direction to allow us to hold on to a trade better. If it happens once, it happens to the best of us. If it happens often, then that's something that you and I would like to work on together. With this, though, hey, to get in from 111 and get out, even if it was at 122, 125, that's a decent gain. It's a dollar stock. So, like 10 cents, 12 cents, whatever it is, if not maybe more, that's a pretty good trade. Obviously, we see cheap stocks make these extraordinary pops and runs. Like this might go to 3. Obviously, it's not going to go to 3 now. But I'm saying we've seen stocks make these historic runs. We're not trying to play lotto. I kind of phrased it that way last week. And I know all of us don't have that at the forefront of their minds right now or when they're trading live. I know you don't think that. But we do have to kind of phrase it that way to realize that we have to be on as much on the other side of that spectrum as possible. We got to be more conservative than greedy. We got to try and hit more base hits and singles and doubles compared to home runs at first. The more singles and doubles that we hit, I'm doing baseball reference, guys. You got to realize after last week with Giants football, we lost 42-0 at home. Jets last night, don't even want to mention it, even though they won. I got to do baseball references right now. The more base hits that we get, then it's going to allow us to feel confident to say, all right, well, I'm doing this enough. How could I hit the home run? So that's how we look to train our students ultimately. But even as such, getting in from $1.11 and out at 122, that's not even a single. I'd say that's like a double, maybe even a triple. That's a decent trade. But then obviously from there, once it breaks back over that 121 level here that we called out, said historical level roughly 121. Well, if it breaks above that, then when a stock breaks above resistance and runs off it a bit, what you see on the chart is what we always talk about. Resistance becomes support. And then from there, it moved up a little bit more, right? Went up a little bit further. And then from there, pulled back. So, it just goes to show this has been a really good morning altogether, not just from the regular hours, the market open, but from earlier and pre-market. You follow us inside our chat room. You look at the iceberg orders, look at level 3, level 4. The opportunity has been there really this whole past week. And I'm not just talking for myself here. Last Wednesday, I think I got my ass kicked. I'm saying just out there in general, there is plenty of opportunity that Fausto's calling out, that Rich is calling out, that obviously that I've been calling out. And, if it's not one stock that you're in, don't beat yourself up too much. It's just a matter of saying, okay, is there room to get in on this trade? No. Okay. Is there another stock I can get in on right now? Oh, look at this stock right here. Okay. Are there any big levels here for this stock? No. All right. Probably best to move on. Actually, really quick, just go over this on my coaching call earlier with my student Yehuda. And, it was a great question at the time. So want to go over it. 5, psychological level. Easy to say, not just any regular whole number price, but a pretty damn big level to work off of there. Well, over time, let's show you what happens on the WeWorks. Nice little move up, right? It actually looks like a nice simple chart. When you put the heat map on it, yeah, this doesn't really look too tempting. Doesn't really look too easy to read. So when you look at this move up and up and up and up, and you missed out on a good chunk of it, you might ask, okay, is there more room on this trade? When you look at how ugly this is, well, I'll tell you what. I said it to Yehuda on our call, and I'll say it to all of us here. If this were to run up, like at this time, if this like blasted over 5 and ran up right away up to 6, I wouldn't have been really that affected. I would have been honestly very emotionless by it. I say that because the damn thing was very tough to read. It has no big levels at all as far as bookmap goes. So, hey, stocks go up and down without us all the time. We got to get over it. So, hey, if this pops up without me and there's 0 easy to see levels, that's all right. Let's just see what else is out there, right? So that does happen every now and then. But, otherwise, hey, there's always another one, right? So I'm going to go through some emails here, go through some other questions in just a moment. But even as such, like right now, like, hey, WeWorks trying to move up again. Anything else moving live right now? AMC trying to go back up a small bit up. That stock has been on our radar a bit of late. So there could always be more out there for us to get our hands on. There we go. AMC actually looking very liquid right now on the order book, which I'm a big fan of. So for right now, it's actually making a strong pop. Big iceberg on the bid. That's as much as I'll go into AMC right now, we do have questions that were sent in earlier from students I do want to take the time to go over. But point being, there's always another trade out there that we can get our hands on. So, don't get stuck hoping and holding, if anything. All right. So, really quick, folks, here, I want to go through a couple of different emails that came in. So I want to ask our students this for this question. Question came in from one of our new members, Eric, and was asking, "Hey Josh, I was wondering if you knew how to run a pre-market scan for the stocks we are looking for in Thinkorswim. When I set up my search with the parameters I'm looking for, it doesn't perform the search. It appears to be a data issue. Is it too early for Thinkorswim to run these scans?" So, for any of our students inside our trading room, if you're very familiar, experienced with, the Thinkorswim scans, the gainers and losers lists, or any custom-built scans that you can make yourself, please let us know right now if you can. Help out our student Eric here if you can. So, I'm actually going to copy and paste this one inside our chat board because I normally don't do that, but it's actually something that I know a lot of our students could help me out on right now because they have Thinkorswim. I do not use Thinkorswim. It's a great platform. I advocate for anyone to use it now with level 4 data integrated with it, Bookmap. I highly advocate for any of our members to use it if they have it. So just sent that there in the main chat for any of our students right now if they want to help Eric out with that question there. All right, so we keep it going. So from Ryan, and perhaps I had to answer this just because he may have chatted me just as we were going live here, so I'll still go through it though, Ryan. Can you review the historical levels on the ticker CGC and why you set a top price? So the 194 we got, but let's definitely go back on CGC, and I'll go over the remaining levels. All right, so we know that green is known as buying, right? We take green at face value as buying. So we ended up having closing bell print from yesterday right here at 169. I was expecting for that to be support here at this point. Ended up crashing right under it and dropped. So support should become resistance on the way back up if it moves back up there later on. I right now, the way it looks, I doubt it will. 151 was the opening bell print from today. That was a damn big print, 1.5 million shares. 140 is also green. That is also what we'll nickname as a big buying level, right? We have to if it's green. Well, why was that plotted? Why was that a level? Got a lot of dots here too, right? So I'm try and do something here. There we go. So I just filtered out the dots a little bit there, Ryan. You could see at 140, about 667,000 share print that got filled. And then, I mean, it shows more evident on the delta side here. I had this all stretched out. It's my real detailed version of it, but got a lot of green, a lot of buying, a lot of green there at 140 from basically this is the CVP delta column stretched out. So 140 was a big level there. Let me just mess around here 1 second, make this easier for us. There we go. Back to the dots here. Whatever. There we go. All right, so that's 140 there, Ryan. And then finally, 130 I had as a regular CVP level. It's not a drastic spike, not a drastic one, but it sticks out a little bit. Basically, it's to say every 10 cents. So to say is likely to be some level, but otherwise, there's a lot of significance towards 140 as that was a big buying level from yesterday. 151 is this morning's opening bell print. I'll just make that yellow to kind of show the difference there for right now. And then 169 was the closing bell print from yesterday. So this is just all from yesterday, though. Throughout the morning, the early afternoon, from pent-up consolidation, 140 was a big volume level, big buying level at that. So that truly is where you would want resistance to get flipped into support. This might sound easy to say, folks, just kind of looking at it after the fact. But hey, I didn't take this trade. I didn't jump in here at the crack of dawn. I'm half asleep, but I'm half awake, and I go through a little insomnia hours early in the morning, like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. If I somehow wake up a little bit later at 4 o'clock, I check my phone. I'm like, all right, what are my positions at? Where are these stocks at? Then I go back to sleep. I woke up, I waited till 4 o'clock. I saw a CGC drop, and I said to myself, ooh, okay, well, it's right at that 140 line there. I wonder if we're going to see resistance become support. Obviously, it bounced off of there. I didn't take the trade. I was half asleep. I was in my bed. But it goes to show, well, it clearly was a strong level because look at the reaction after. Moved up 23 cents after off the level. It went down there here after the open and slingshotted. Then once now here, it's trying to now officially lay over it as support. So if this is truly meant to be, and if this is truly meant to become a big support, I mean, hey, if it bounces off of this level sooner than later, that's good. But you actually want this to build up as support right now coming up because it really didn't build too much as a support, a couple of tests and pokes, but that was all. Like this was really the first time it laid over it to test it as that support and laid above it for like 5 minutes, but then collapsed. All right, the more it lays over it here is actually a good sign. If it ends up flying off of this sooner than later, then that's even better. That's the cherry on top, I guess. But I wouldn't necessarily expect that here. I would more expect resistance to become support. All right. So for Eric, who had asked that about Thinkorswim, I know he's in the chat right now responding. So he's getting a lot of love from our students right now. Kathleen, Sydney, Ryan, John, all helping Yehuda as well. I appreciate you folks all helping my student Eric out right now in the chat. A lot of conversation about that in the main chat board. So I'll keep that going, right? So I appreciate all of us helping out. Hey, if you want to join us inside our trading room, all of us on social media, scan that QR code. We are a team, we are a community and a family together. So I knew that we would come in handy right there, all of our students. So thank you very much. All right. So I talked about the CGC to a great extent, right? Ryan, next question actually from the email actually. So going back, can you please explain what a Fausto flag is using the Gurn stock as an example, as mentioned by Fausto this morning? So a Fausto flag is it's a chart pattern. In this case, we were referring to a bullish Fausto flag where we were looking for a breakout higher imminently. Now here, before the failure of it actually, this is what it had looked like. We saw this pop up at the time and resistance was holding at 265. It was very clean top. So a Fausto flag, we have a lot more time to go over this in phase one of our stock course, but we have higher lows, ascending lows there, and then the highs remain the same. It creates an ascending triangle, aka Fausto flag. That is a sloppy drawn top. There we go. And normally you expect to see the bulls squeeze out the buyers squeeze out the sellers, the bulls squeeze out the bears, and it leads to a nice pop. Now, this is actually a great example to go over. A Fausto flag, I don't like spitting out statistics too often because oftentimes this works out, but I don't like giving a fixated number. You could actually go on gentleman's website, the chartpatterntrader.com. I think Thomas Bolkowski, a very well-known chart pattern trader. I mentioned this in sporadic classes. Let's just say between 70 to 75% success rate with an ascending triangle, a Fausto flag, right? Now, 70 to 75%, folks, that's like 3/4. Is that a lot? Is that a lot? 3/4 of the time it works? 74%? Is that a lot? I'm not throwing anyone off here the way I'm asking the question. Ooh, I got to do better. All of us saying yes, and rightfully so. It should be a lot. That's a lot. I mean, hey, if your win-loss percentage is barely over 50, but if you're really good at cutting your losses and letting some winners run, I bet you're profitable. I bet you're making money. And that's at just over 50%. How about 3/4? How about 75%? That's awesome. Can I ask you folks? Is that 100? Is that 100%? 3/4? Let's say if you jump in this trade right here, it breaks resistance, you jump in. Should you be kicking your feet up? Oh, we did it. 100% this is going to go right now, right? No. Now, the thing with this that makes this extra dangerous is that it's done in pre-market. Done in pre-market here where you can't set stops, and especially for something that might be on a thinner, more spaced out order book. There is higher risk with any pre-market trade, but on a false breakout and it fails to make that proverbial big move shortly after, it's going to make a big move shortly after, folks. I guarantee you, just not in the direction you're looking for. So easy to say, but a big pop and drop. Now, what's also easy to say here is that, well, hey, it failed here at this time, right? It made a nasty shakedown. Well, we clearly know this is a strong level because it was holding it for a number of minutes in a row. It's a clean flag. You made the right call out. That's a bullish Fausto flag, folks. When it breaks over this level, let me ask you here. We know that it broke under it and dropped, right? But where it broke over 265 and it was moving up and up and up and up and up above 265, at that very time, what color was coming up on time and sales there? Ryan says green. I'd say correct. And we nicknamed green as buying. So what happens if this continues to break over 265 over time? What happens if this keeps nipping at 265? It keeps trying and trying. It leads to the potential of this running higher and making that big pop you wanted the first time. So this wasn't as great of a run up actually at the time. It was like chopping around a bit. It held above it. Got the job done. Don't get me wrong. Getting a little close towards 930. So thankfully, by the time it really broke out and continued, I feel like that's enough to take the money and run if you were in from that 265 level. You know what I mean? Like that's the big level to begin with, right? Hey, it failed. Ugly shake. If you took a 15-cent loss here, 10-cent loss here, it is unfortunate, right? Especially if it's on a thin book and you really didn't have much of an ability to get out where you wanted to. Like if you had to take a bigger loss, it sucks. It really does. Like it's not a good feel. I can't sugarcoat it. But what happens if the sucker keeps just testing that resistance, keeps going and pressing up against it? It's giving you that opportunity. So really good example to go over actually, because not everything is sunshine and rainbows. As much as we would want that pop to take place right away, big pop and run, and as much as it does happen, well, hey, there was another opportunity on this Gurn trade. Just took a little while for it to happen afterwards, but it did get the move. It did get the job done there. All right, so bear with me, folks, really quickly here. Just want to keep going through my email inbox, keep sifting through right now for all of us on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, the works. Hey, let me know as well if you have any other questions that you'd want to go through before we finish up here. Got about 10 minutes to go. I did want to take some time to go over the Tesla trade. The Tesla trade. All right, so just checking the chat board right now. We are good, it looks like. All right, that's fun. Let's go back right now. Actually, before we go to Tesla, let's kind of cycle through those trades that we were just looking at here. So, hey, CGC is inching off that 140 level. So, you wanted it to hold above it as support at minimum. This little move up is actually a little bit better than I would have expected at this current time. So, hey, it's healthy. It's good. What else did we have? The IONQ. Hey, look at this. It actually dipped off a little lower first, but then it broke back over these levels, which could have generated a good entry right here. And now we're back to my 1968 price. And hey, let's see that be support. There could be plenty of action left on this trade, folks. I'm telling you. So we'll keep our eyes out there. AI, this one as well from the morning session was a great. This one actually really quick before Tesla. Allow me to do this. I got to do this. Give myself some flowers here. So AI, folks, I have no life. I don't have, I don't have a lot going on. It's easy for me to remember this stuff. So that's what I could tell you. AI, I remember from the beginning of this damn year, we were calling out a bunch of prices up and down, left and right. We were calling out a bunch of stuff. I just remember this as if it's in the back of my head, like back of my hand, 2588. I had this number in the back of my head, shouting it out for a long time now. Now, AI came out with earnings last week. It was, what was it, on Wednesday after we finished up Traders Talk last week? So, gap down, not a good earnings headline. right? With that in mind, though, just like we always talk about, once a stock breaks above resistance and runs off of it, in the event where it pulls back to that price, we'd like to think initially the first test is the best test. So back last week, 25.88, it went under, it went over. It has been a machine since, and even earlier today, it dropped off quite a bit, but now it's back up towards big level from this morning at 29 bucks, and actually a little chart level here more than anything at 28.90. You'd want to see this get reclaimed as support for my AI trade right now. As a day trade, I'm talking about from a swing trade perspective. I have the October 20th calls on AI. October 6th or 20th? 20th. In at 209, my average price on that. So, all right. So let's go to Tesla right now, and we'll finish up by wrapping up all these other stocks. So I took the time to plot Tesla for this morning. All these lines are levels for this morning's trading. I did not trade Tesla today. There's a lot of stocks out there, folks. A lot of irons in the fire, a lot of pizzas in the oven, whatever that catchphrase is. Hey, I could have traded Tesla. I chose not to. There were other stocks out there. So, as far as how my levels ended up playing out, well, let's just kind of take a look. It's easy to kind of recap that briefly here. So, basically 270, $10 incremental level here, broke under it. I would have expected resistance here a lot better, so it snapped above it rather fast. I remember at the time, once this popped up right at that point, it definitely caught me off guard. I saw it begin to slingshot up, and I was even saying, like, wow, that's pretty damn impressive. I wasn't necessarily expecting that to be our squeeze there. So from that point over time, well, hey, if it keeps pressing up against resistance, the next set of levels here, basically we'll call this green to be a big buying level, roughly at 272. So the more times it nips and gnaws at it, I would expect for that resistance to get broken. Well, resistance should get flipped into support. So over time, well, even this one at first became support. It crashed under it though. Support became resistance after. Went down to this next level to be support. It tried, but with how strong it broke under it here initially, over time, the sellers continued to win the battle here short term, and then this continued to drop off. All right, well, now we're at our previous big buying level right here, the green. So this really should be our big support, though, otherwise. For this to be so much big buying resistance, well, it broke over it. So if anything, this really should be our big support. This would have been a very viable entry right here. This would have been a sweet entry to take. And hey, you might not say that given the quick aftermath. It bounced off of it, but then tanked. Every trade begins with the entry. My IONQ entry right here was an A+ entry, just the wrong time. This Tesla entry right here, if someone took this entry, it's an A+ entry, but it's not breaking out of this downtrend yet off the highs. It's still having a really tough time. So if it doesn't make that pop and go, then it's more prone to see support get tested again. And that's where, break-even trades happen. I don't care about missing a little profit in the grand scheme of things compared to, and then eventually taking a break-even trade compared to taking that loss. Compared to coming back to it and being here, it's like, oh shit, I should have set my stop. But you know what? Hey, if we're expecting such a big move shortly after, probably should be making a better move than just this little thing, right? That's all. So, over time, it continued to drop. It bounced off 270 finally. And, this could still be a point in time where we're going to see support build. This last shake here isn't too pretty, I'll say that much. But over time, if this could rebuild over 272 as support, I'd consider it. IONQ still holding over 1970 right now, 1968 that price is. SPY hasn't dropped off too much off these last set of highs. So, if this trend continues, then we're in good shape, right? The Tesla trade, so to go back on that actually, so we just went over this briefly, my levels that I plotted for this morning. But yesterday was obviously the better move, right? So I'm going to actually do this more on Bookmap because I have other levels I plotted that I don't want to make it too confusing. So Just go back on yesterday's book map here for Tesla. And, hey, this could be easy to say in hindsight, but if you're reading the chat yesterday live, these levels were here. So let me ask you, this is after 8 o'clock. This is pre-market after 8 o'clock. It already started to pop up pretty nicely at first. Looking at the CVP column and the Delta column, where do we have big buying? Where do we specifically have big buying? Green. Where do we have green? 264 says Ryan. Yeah, it's the most obvious one there, right? Because CVP sticks out big time. Then this definitely sticks out here, right? You could say a little under that here too. What is this? Like 263.42 cents. Okay. What's this up top? What is that? That's like 264 and 30 cents, right? 264.30. All right. So this morning, all throughout pre-market, like before 8 o'clock even hit, I was specifically calling this out because if this wants to make a big move up again, we got to see this break above big buying. So 264 is that level. It really is. But clearly it had a tough time with this area here. So let's respect this here a little bit. And it built up as a top and then it here as well. So I was calling out 264.30, or maybe it was 264.25, just that area. I was looking for that to build out as a big buying level for the morning yesterday. Well, market opened up 9:30, ding, ding, ding. Well, looks like right away when the market opens up, this all of a sudden takes kind of the cake, takes the full spotlight and focus. So this is the opening bell print from yesterday, Monday morning. So not just any given day, it's the weekly open price. That's at 264 and 34 cents. That's, nearly a million shares, we'll loosely say. And, clearly that is going to take the cake as our big level to work off of 264 and 34 cents. So, you know what? Let me go back on this if I can. Basically, where you see these two lines, that was where the opening print was. So by the time this started to perk back above that price again, heading into like the 950 time slot here, going into 10. Well, the more times it's pressing up against it, and we already saw a lot of big buying in pre-market, I'd like to think that we should get a pretty big move shortly after, no? Now, hey, Tesla's pretty expensive. We're not going to a lot of us are not trading Tesla the equity. You could have a couple of alternatives though. So for any of my students that trade options, easy to say, and I say that because looking at the move afterwards, yeah, it is easy to say. This thing ended up making a pretty strong run up higher over time. But you could trade the premium on this. You could trade the calls on this by the time it ends up breaking above that price again at first here, and then later on, really when it begins to form higher lows, keeps giving you that shot. If we're expecting a big move shortly after, it's okay to be there at the right place at the wrong time and for you to get stopped out, break even, where, oh, maybe I could have made a little bit. Oh, I could have taken a little. We're not here to take a little. We don't want to get greedy, but we're not here to take a little. We're not here to make just like 10 cents on a $265 stock. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't mind going break even or a washout trade, waste a little profit I could have taken there. We go through the same motions each and every week because, well, we see the same patterns repeat each and every week. So, hey, do you want to be on the right side of this? Not to say in terms of win or lose, but do you want to follow that sentiment? And, hey, if we're expecting a big move shortly after, then let's at least trust our level. If it breaks under the level, then all right, obviously we're going to have to get out. But if it breaks above the level, let's make sure it maintains above it. But by the time this starts to go up again, well, that's clearly where you're starting to see that you're in the right now. And so long as this now holds over this as a higher low, play the higher low game, then that's where you look to have your run. So it's easy to correlate buying the options on Tesla so long as you have the right stock level, that 264 and change. Well, hey, it showed us support here at first, so that definitely validates the strength and validity of the level. Broke under it here. Okay. Support should become. Okay, that checks out. Well, the more times it presses it, we should get that big move. And, I harp on this because obviously Tesla news came out yesterday and everyone does follow Tesla to some variation. So if you're not trading the equity, obviously you could trade the option. If you're not trading the option, you could trade the ETF, the Tesla ETF, TSLL. Tesla ETF. We call this one out, honestly, or we call Tesla out because you could trade the ETF. So by the time this rebroke over that price, the equity at least, Ryan, we were talking about this live at the time. I got filled at 1703 on the ETF. That was my entry. And I ended up getting out. I think it was by the time Tesla, I don't have the exit price on me offhand. It's in the chat. But Tesla, losing track of my tickers here, so many damn stocks. By the time it ended up hitting 270 yesterday, Tesla, that's where I got out on the majority of the TSLL. And yeah, it kept going up higher a little bit more. But listen, when you're in from here, and it's storming up towards the next major iceberg resistance, that's enough meat off the bone. I'm content. You know what I mean? So I may have left even a small portion on the table and ran up a little bit, but still, this ran up a lot more even after I got out. It just goes to show there were a bunch of trades out there throughout yesterday and today. It goes to show if you know where the right levels are, there's going to be plenty of opportunity out there. All right, folks, we're going to finish up Traders Talk right now. Let me know if there's any last questions that you'd want me to go over. I'll have the chance to do that via private chat coming up. I'll tell you what, I don't want to keep talking because the more I talk, the more I miss out on this. This is actually starting to move off my level now at this point, this 1968. So, I'm going to jump on to a few calls coming up with a few of our students, even coaching calls on top. How about this? One of our gold students joining us on YouTube today. Roberto, good to see you here. I just saw your chat right now, my friend. My apologies. Saying, just to let you know, Thinkorswim does not permit Bookmap for international accounts. I did not actually, if I knew that, it didn't come to the forefront of my mind. So I'll count that as new information for myself, Roberto. Thank you for bringing that up there, actually. Asking, how could I be able to use the level 3 in interactive brokers and or Thinkorswim? So Roberto, that's something I know that you're a student of CTU joining us on social stream right now. So Insider chat room, you definitely know, just private chat me. I'm going to be on a few calls coming up, but it's very easy for me to type back to you inside our chat room. So please, honestly, private chat me, and I'll be able to go over that with you in our trading room, probably before the 2:30 meeting comes up. All right. Go over interactive brokers, go over the book trader that they have there. It's honestly the same exact way that you would use the TradeStation matrix right here on the far right for interactive brokers. Now, there is more to it than just that. That's really the majority of the answer. But to go into the more nitty gritty, to go more into the deeper, finer details of that, definitely private chat me in our room, and then we'll catch up. All right, Roberto? All right, folks, we're going to call it for right now. I didn't get my new jugs of water, my new water delivery, but got water here. So good to go on that, but I'm going to jump on to a few calls coming up. So, hey, for all of us in social, join us inside our trading room just to catch the full rendition of this workshop alongside the full trading room on top, all of our students and instructors together. But hey, I'll be back on the mic at 2:30 Eastern just for the afternoon meeting, folks. Talk to you then.